Welcome to the show, folks. Today we're talking about repopulating the planet.
Yes. Darwinism. Right. Which would then make Noah, now we have a fundamental problem with Noah's, the story of the ark.
Mm-hmm.
Either there was 50 of everything on there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so some people would say, aha, so therefore it can't be
Right.
the truth. It is a fable. Or, first of all, I think I'm one of those guys who believe that is science is the language of God. We keep finding things out, and that's what we're supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we just get a little bit more and more and more. So then the other question would be, hey, I guess what was not left out of the Bible was the fact that God said, okay, for the first 500 of years, I'm going to produce genetic diversity.
Mm.
Right? So there, you got it. And we know that the flood, and when I did my comparative religion studies, I'm a world studies, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Global studies. I'm like one of the original global study majors.
Ooh, looky there.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things is that every religion but one has a story of the flood.
Which is very interesting.
Yeah. So there was a massive flood, maybe 100,000 years ago, whatever. And that Great Lake and the dam broke, and everyone's got it in their religions, of the major religions.
Well, let's do this. So there's some debate on how long Noah was out on the ark.
Yeah.
Somewhere between, I had to look it up, somewhere between 150 and 360 days.
Mm.
I'm not sure I buy into the fact that the flood engulfed the entire world.
Oh, very good.
I don't think that's...
Yep.
We can look at the science. I don't believe there is enough water. If we were to pull all the water out of the atmosphere into its liquid state, there's enough water to flood the entire world.
There you go.
So, now granted, the climate could have been completely different then.
Right,
but water doesn't... Let me explain this. This is from our climate people.
Yes.
All the climate people know, if they've got any climate background, water doesn't escape into the atmosphere to space. It doesn't do that. So all the water...
Spin off?
No, it doesn't spin off. So all the water we have is all the water we've ever had. So when somebody says something
much,
like, water is a non-renewable resource, I'm like, that's not true at all. At all. Water is water, and we've got as much as we'll ever have. Now...
Therefore, it makes it a non-renewable resource.
Well, no. It's a renewable resource because you can't get rid of water.
I understand.
Right? Does that make sense?
Better.
So,
yeah, okay.
I'm of the belief, particularly when it comes to Noah's
If we just
Ark,
had a whole bunch of like Jello powder, I guess.
well, you reconstituted.
You still have water and Jello.
You still got water, right?
Got it. Still on this boat.
Here's a better way to put it. Like, there is a legitimate problem with drinking water around the world.
Yeah.
It's not that there
the
isn't
number one problem.
It's not that there isn't enough water. It's in what current station is that water in?
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't drink ocean water because we haven't built technologies that are affordable enough to be able to do that. Anyways, long story short. So I don't believe the Noah story meant the entire world. I think it's, at the time, the known world absolutely experienced a huge flood. But if you're telling me the entire world experienced a flood and then it dissipated in less than a year, I got a hard time believing that part of it.
I believe I'm like Rick from Rick and Morty. I believe in infinite possibilities.
Well, there's infinite possibilities and then there's probability, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, right.
It's like whenever we have
it is in the Bible. I mean, God could have did it.
Well,
right?
That's true.
There you go.
Certainly.
Yeah.
It's the same conversation that we have with Elon from time to time. Are there aliens out there? Certainly possible.
Yep.
Is it probable? Is it probable? Maybe. Is it probable we'll actually find them?
Yeah.
Pretty much 0%.
Too big.
It's the universe is much bigger than people realize.
I think I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think there's probably 10 people on this entire planet who actually understand how massive the universe really is.
Yeah.
Because we can't. It's unfathomable to most.
Let me put it to you this way: if we can print off another 2.8 trillion and nobody finds any problem with that, you do not understand how big the universe is. I can tell you that. I don't even understand how big it is. I don't even understand 2.8 trillion, and the universe is so much more vast than that. So, in any case, I don't know how did you get into this? How we're going to repopulate the planet thing for biodiversity?
I watched a George Clooney movie last night.
Which one did you watch?
On Netflix. By Midnight or something like that.
Yeah,
Midnight
okay.
Sky.
So I watched that same movie.
Oh, you didn't get that?
I didn't like it. I was like,
oh, I didn't say it was good.
It's terrible. I'm sitting there So I'm getting texts from a friend of mine. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm watching this movie.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh my gosh, my brother and I were going to watch that. I'm like, don't. It's terrible.
Yeah.
The whole time you're sitting there and you're like, Clooney
The Midnight Sky, yeah.
Midnight Sky. And you're like, Clooney is so good. And they have these different time arcs. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be so great towards the end. And then I was like, I get this text like, well, how far are you into it? I was like, I have 10 minutes left. And she said, how is it? I said, it's terrible, but I'm really hoping like it's George Clooney, right? Like there's going to be some like, oh my gosh, this is great. No, it was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
And it's just the two of them that are left.
It's like season 1 of Lost.
Yeah.
You're always hoping that it's something's
and you're
going
like,
to happen.
what is going on? And then by season 2, you're like, oh, there's a smoky snake. Where did that thing come from?
So I just thought the two of them couldn't possibly go back to the moon on Saturn and repopulate.
No, they can't.
But she did say during one of the communications, the colonies, meaning there were multiples. And then he was, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it.
It's terrible. Don't watch it.
Spoiler alert. The only thing that he was really interested in was the fact that that was his daughter.
Right.
Not saving humanity. It was more of a very personal connection.
Right.
But I was like, oh. So I knew that they had to turn around and go back before they even had the conversation. And I'm like, well, they might as well just drive right into the sun. There's only 2 of them, and they're not going to be able to procreate.
Well, so there was, assuming they didn't have a lifeboat with a bunch of eggs and sperm on, right?
Of course, yes.
Because that's exactly how you do it. I mean, you just load up, right? And send out multiple arcs.
Well, that is my next business venture is just that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
I can't tell you guys.
Can't tell you yet.
That's an easily billion-dollar business, dude.
I think so.
The technology's almost there, too.
Yeah. It's so cheap to get something in space right now. It's not a problem.
It's infinitely storageable.
Absolutely. Yep.
So there's a really good, it's not on, I saw it I think I saw it right as it came out. And I cannot remember who's in it. I'll remember here in a minute. But they get sent out on one of these lifeboats, and the crew dies. This guy's the only guy that survives.
Yep.
And then he's supposed to be like one of the service guys. Like it's going to take 50 years to get somewhere, right? But he's lonely because everybody's dead.
Yep.
So he wakes up one of the gals in...
Oh, Chris Pratt movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's with Chris Pratt.
Yeah. That was great, yeah.
And of course, she's like all angry, and I'm like, what woman's going to be angry to be stuck on a boat with Chris Pratt? I'm like, I'm not buying that part, right? It's a righteous indignation. But I'm like, you're fine. So anyways, the best part of the movie is at the very end, because they end up not having any children, but the lifeboat eventually makes it there, and they built all these terrariums and stuff. It was really, really good. That's probably the best movie I've ever seen that kind of deals with that. But yeah, you send out, if you remember on that Clooney thing, it's all the different ships they sent out. You send them all out, right? Because you know the world's ending. And
yeah, send them out.
Of course, Elon's already in the next galaxy. Well, everybody's making fun of him on Twitter.
Yeah. So while I'm watching that, I'm also reading the year-end review.
By Dave Collum.
Yep.
Which is the best year-end review that I've ever... It's every single year he produces it, and he's been doing it for 10 or 15 years now. It is the best just overview of what happened. And he throws in those like random weird stories you didn't even know about.
Yep.
I would mention a certain somebody who didn't kill themselves, and he starts talking about like... He had some very interesting evidence, some very interesting articles. He's like, that guy ain't dead. I'm telling you, that guy's not dead. And I was like, oh, I don't know. This is...
We'll talk more about that when we come back from the break. But I did, we did a little binge watching, and we started cleaning up the house. That was a big thing yesterday.
Okay.
Just tackle one area at a time. The house cleaners are doing a great job, but there's always clutter.
Yeah.
So we started decluttering things. In fact, I have stuff to bring in from the car, and I got to bring in the guitar. Anyway, this is Robert and Jason. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network. If you want to get hold of us, text us at 281-401-9008, 281-401-9008. We'll be back.
Welcome back. Jason Bible, Robert Orfino, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. We're talking about Dave Collum's... type in Dave Collum Year in Review. He's a chemist out of Cornell. And he's a... tenured faculty member there, and he started investing really getting serious about investing 15, 20 years ago. Went around on Twitter and people started to follow him, and then they said, hey, would you write? So he starts writing, and now he does this year in review. That's got to be
10 years now, right?
Yeah, 10 years. It's got to be, 200 pages? It's super long.
Yeah, the part, I'm glad they did 2 parts, because part 1 was just the meat, right?
Yeah.
And then part 2 was just...
It's like ranting and stuff.
Yeah, ranting on, like, it's like a Twitter feed, right?
Yeah. Part 1 is a lot of, although he didn't include a real estate section this year. You ought to go back and read the one from last year. He has a whole section on real estate. But, yeah, part 2 is really like social and political commentary.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So we're going to do a whole show on it, and then we're going to move on to our analysis within our mastermind and our Patreon account.
Yeah, so if you guys want to see the year in review,
because there are some absolute things to draw from that.
Oh, there certainly is.
Right, really serious things. So
there certainly is.
But today is not today.
Today is definitely not today. So we'll do a whole year in review for our mastermind folks and our patrons, and it'll be fantastic. So
you know what I get? When you text 281-401-9008, like everyone out there listening, there's a good chance that you're not in my address book.
Oh yeah, so like, hey bro, I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, so I
get somebody text
random text. This is what I got yesterday. I'm like, I really wish I knew who you were, because I'm really excited about that.
You don't give them the new phone who dis?
No, I don't do that.
New phone who dis? Yes.
Just binge watched all of The Mandalorian.
Oh, that's great.
I'm like, awesome. Who is this? I'd like to know.
That Mandalorian, man. Woo.
It's good. Did you watch, do you have HBO Max?
I don't know.
Wonder Woman came out this weekend.
Oh, that's right. It did.
Horrible.
That's what I heard. I was like, I might watch that. And then I started reading. They're like, terrible. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. It's awful.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely
so
atrocious, which is sad.
Then Soul came out, which is the new Pixar movie.
How was that?
Much, much better than Wonder Woman.
Really?
Oh, we were so happy we watched that. Very good. Made you think, a little heart pulled on some heartstrings, but much better than Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was absolutely horrible. The story was horrible.
It's I'm not one to get on my rant about social justice and all that other stuff, but if you're forcing it, it's not going to work.
I don't think that's what they did.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think it had anything to do with social justice. I didn't see it. It wasn't
like Captain Marvel, but it sounds like it's right up there with Captain Marvel, right?
No, it was just bad.
Oh, okay.
Right. Well, Captain Marvel was just bad.
Everybody hated her as an actress.
It was just bad. Yeah. Well, yes.
I tried watching some of it. It's terrible. My favorite comment on the review.
Captain Marvel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it. It's gonna be awful.
What's that?
This one, it sticks in my mind because it was a comment on YouTube, and he said, "This is America's ex-wife," and I was like,
awesome.
"Oh, that is so terrible." But that is exactly what it just was so
You're absolutely
bad.
right. They came off like that instead of, I'm trying to think who is, just a cool Captain Marvel. We didn't get that.
Yeah.
Right? We got really,
Yeah, because Captain Marvel, Thor was that whole thing like, hey, Earth is just but one thing that we're doing here. And Captain Marvel, that is so much bigger than that.
She's a thorn.
Yeah, it's kind of like, hey, all right, I got to do this, and then I got to go out and I got to save 15 more planets.
Yeah, it was
like
annoying.
This, right?
And she was annoying, and it's just like, oh, you don't understand, Robert. It's so empowering. I'm like, yeah, I know. I've watched a lot. I love Wonder Woman, the first movie. That was for sure fantastic. Best female heroine movie, comic book movie I've ever seen, right? And I can't wait to see Black Widow. So I'm all down with that. And Wasp. If Captain Marvel had Wasp's personality, I would have loved that movie. Right? I'm powerful, I'm very smart, and I don't need you. Is that sort of mentality that the Wasp had in the first Ant-Man. But it wasn't. It was all those things plus the B word.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, come on, man. You ruined it. So, yeah, I'm not the only one. But no, this Wonder Woman had nothing to do with woke, nothing social, nothing. It was just bad. It just wasn't good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like Ocean's 8 or whatever it was, right? It's like all the women things. Like, oh, you don't like it because of women. No, I watched it. It was bad.
Yeah.
Just bad. And I thought Ocean's 13 was bad.
The first Ocean's is incredible.
First one is great.
Yeah.
Second one, it's just a downward slope, right?
Yeah.
So I get it. And we hit the rock bottom with Ocean's 8. So there you go. I mean, it just had nothing to do with who's in it and the characters are female versus male. It's just like, this is a bad movie.
Yeah.
But I guess that, in the year-end review, that's what he's talking about. You're not allowed to say that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Very interesting thing about the guy in Buffalo, that little conspiracy theory there.
Which one's?
The victim of the cop got shoved down.
I've not read the whole thing yet.
Yeah, I've read it all. I stayed up all night reading it. I want to be prepared today.
I went through part 1 and I ended at the first 2 subjects in part 2, which you started getting into the conspiracy theory stuff.
So I think for us, what we saw in our year, and we're going to cover that this week here in between the holidays. We're just going to do 3 shows. We saw those that took action made a lot of money.
I'm working on a project with A-Rock right now. It kind of all hit me the last couple of days. And the analogy I can give is in Q1, the early days of the crisis, everyone's freaking out, right? Mm-hmm. And I equate it to this. Everybody ran into their castle. Like this, let's think of this as like Game of Thrones, D&D style, right? And then you and I lit our torches in the dark of night, grabbed the armor, grabbed the weapons, went out hunting. And there was nobody else out there.
Yeah, it was easy.
Nobody was else. Well, the scary part is the uncertainty, right? It was the uncertainty that we didn't know what was out there, but we knew the hunting would be good. And so I'm working on a video with A-Rock to show that entire arc of the early days, the assets we were buying, where are we going to get the money? I don't know. What's going on in construction? Who knows? I mean, just this. And the reason I want to show this arc is because I hear a lot of investors that say, Jason, when the market crashes, then I'm going to get in. And I tell them, no, you're not. Because there's so much uncertainty. There's so much fear. If that were true, you would have been buying in February.
If you can't take action now, you're telling me you're going to take action when the sky is falling? Are you kidding me?
You're kidding. No, you're not.
You're going to be under your bed.
That's right.
Yeah.
Crying. When you should be out. 'Cause I don't think people realize we were getting calls from bankers, hedge funds, big institutional guys that are calling us and saying, man, I watch y'all's show. I listen to y'all's stuff. I love you guys. Do not do what you're about to do. And I kept telling them, like, you don't understand. This is the time to go out hunting.
Yep.
But Jason, it's cold outside. It's scary. There's no light. You could, step on the dragon. I mean, it's like, this is when you go. You go now. And that, I will tell you this, what we experienced in Q1 and Q2 is a precursor to what the next real estate crash will look like. And it's going to be much worse. And it's going to be real deep. And it's going to take a lot of people out. It's probably going to be 2027 if I were to guess.
I would say so. Yep.
So, but I'll tell you what, now's the time. This was a great practice run.
Yes.
Get ready.
I agree.
Build your portfolio now and get ready for the next wave.
Guys, we'll be right back. Robert and Jason here, Texas Real Estate Radio Network. The problem is, this is a great little mug I got from Patent Title. Yeah. You guys go check out Patent Title. But it's a Yeti.
What's wrong with that?
Well, it makes it even more attractive, and everyone's like, ooh, Rob's got a Yeti. But it really keeps this stuff hot, and I need to cool down so I can drink it.
Oh, those things are legit,
It'll be 2
dude.
hours before I can drink this hot tea.
Oh, they're so great, aren't they? So, yeah, it's like, oh, you guys got a Yeti. I'm like, well, close $1 gazillion in business with them, and they will give you a Yeti, too.
You borrow, $15 million with Jet, and you'll get a cooler.
Yeah. I mean,
get a cooler.
Jason, how'd you get a Yeti cooler from Jet? I was loan number 2,999 of the 100 I did with them this year. So, doing business has its perks, right? So, my dad and I guess it was Christmas Day. We were on the phone with each other for almost 3 hours and talked about a lot of different stuff. And we talked about some of the shootings and the unrest and all that. And I talked a little bit about 2021. And I can tell you this. I was out yesterday. Yeah, it was after church. Went to lunch after church. the restaurant we were in had one other table. This was in Memorial Town Center at one of the restaurants on a Sunday that should be packed, and there should be a 45-minute wait. And we pulled up, and I called the valet across the street, and I said, "Hey, are they open?" He goes, "Yeah, they're open. Just park over here." I'm like, "There's no valet.
Where do I park?
Where there's nobody here." Right. I almost parked just right in front of the restaurant because nobody was there. Right. Yeah. So it was. If folks think that they're just gonna go back to work, it's not gonna happen.
But I think the point is, again, in real estate, I guess the concern is, rents, which is why we moved to Section 8. So we're starting to be protected there. But that starter home now becomes a challenge for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because there's not enough, we're still flying high. I guess we're talking about a 25% unemployment for people who just weren't going to buy the house, right?
Yeah, it's the
only about 58% of the population can afford it, right? So
yeah, it's the John Edwards comment that everyone flew off the handle for in 2004?
Yes.
When they said there are two Americas.
Two Americas, yeah.
And he's absolutely right. Yeah. And when it comes to real estate, there's two Americas.
Mm-hmm.
There's the America that can afford a single family home, and then there's the damn near 60% that can't.
Yep.
And that number is only going to get skewed. And here's the problem. What we know from so many studies on wealth, there are tons of studies on wealth out there. And one of the key variables to building generational wealth is owning your own home.
For sure.
It's almost statistically impossible to retire or build familial wealth without having a single family home. Impossible. Almost statistically impossible, especially if you're a family. So the idea that things are going to get better for a lot of these Americans is just not going to happen. And this economy is becoming diverse while at the same time being specialized. So if you don't have a really fantastic skill set, learn to code, bro. That was one of the things that came out in 2020, right? And everyone kind of joked about it, but it's true.
Yeah, but the problem with Dave Collins, it's with any of this is it's always taken in a very static snapshot, right?
That's true.
Because we only know what we know today, right? And then one of the things in that report that was interesting, he said, in the last 100 years, the greatest period of innovation was 1926 to 1930.
Okay, I agree with that, and that's one of the best parts of that article, where it talked about the difference between evolution and revolution.
Right.
And I think he's totally right with Tesla when he said Tesla was an evolution of the automobile, not revolutionary. And I said, That's true, but SpaceX and Neuralink will be revolutionary.
For sure.
Those will absolutely be revolutionary.
Yeah. Well, if gold is the standard, right? Just what one person on this entire planet is in best position to go mine gold on the moon?
Yeah.
Right? Or anywhere else.
Well, NASA greenlit that company here in Houston.
Yep.
It was a couple $100 million or a few bill to start working on, and that was NASA of all people,
right,
to help them start working on space mining.
Yep. What are you going to mine in space?
Yeah.
Right? Do we need more iron? No.
Nope.
We need gold.
We need gold. We need.
Yep.
So.
And then you could just start your own gold reserve on the moon. Never even has to leave the moon.
Nope.
Don't even have to worry about rocket fuel. Just
put it right there.
Just shape it, put it down. Yep.
And what's the security? It's pretty easy. There's only so many people can get to the moon.
That's right.
Literally just leave it outside.
Ocean 66, the moon heist.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of like the Expendables, but worse. The Expendables is like all the old guys they pulled out of the 80s movies. It's going to be worse than that. Ocean's 66.
The moon
Brad
heist.
Pitt's like 92.
Right,
come on,
space.
everybody. Let's go. Steal some gold from the moon.
But yeah, I think, again, you need 10 houses.
Yeah, let's bring this back to reality.
Right. I read the whole thing, and in my mind, I just kept back. Show me something that says I shouldn't buy 10 houses.
That's right.
And there was nothing there.
Yes.
Right? Should I diversify and do some other things? Yep. But you still need 10 houses.
Right. It's, as smart as all those guys are, and you read between the lines on a lot of this stuff, is the Federal Reserve doing crazy stuff? Yes. Will the United States lose its reserve currency status at some point? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there going to be finally a huge crash in the bond market? You bet. When are corporate bonds and, all that stuff going to fall? Absolutely. Is that going to happen in my lifetime? I don't know. That's the problem. All the stuff in those articles.
You didn't have to worry about your lifetime. In your active investing lifetime.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? It's going to happen in the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is
probably for you. Is it going to happen in the next 3 to 5 for me?
No. Well, what's so fascinating about Dave's article, and he says this in here, he jokingly says, I feel like I'm the guy at the railway station saying the world is going to end.
Yeah.
And he says it every day, and one day I'm going to be right. I'm like, assuming it happens in your lifetime.
He's down in the subway for the last few years telling everyone the world's going to end, right?
Right. I have heard the real estate market is going to crash since I got into real estate in 2012.
Sure. And it will.
And it will eventually. It always does. It will. Yep. But what a lot of people don't realize, real estate cycles are every 20 years, not every 10.
Yep.
If you go back all the way to the 1800s, real estate cycles are every 20 years. So when people are screaming, even this coronavirus stuff, like real estate market's going to crash, going to crash, going to crash. I'm like, I don't see it crashing, guys. There's nothing out there that says it's crashing. It may slow down. That doesn't mean it's a crash.
Right.
And it did slow down. Less people listed their houses, but more people bought them. You guys better update your appreciation tables to about 10, 15% a year, because I think that's going to be pretty standard at this point.
Yeah, I'm feeling really comfortable on that stuff. And we are one of the things that we need to do as a company now is probably to reevaluate our properties, even if we're just adding a very conservative 6% on the appraisals we've had in the last year. That's a very conservative number, but we go from 1.2 something to 1.3 something, right? All of a sudden we're picking up $60, $70, $80, $90, $100,000 on these properties.
I'm comfortable in our fund at 10% appreciation.
For the single families, I am
for the single family. That's super
absolutely.
Conservative.
Yep.
And 5% for our 2 to 4 units.
I would agree.
That's super easy for me to. Let me put it this way: I can stand in front of any jury and I can easily explain that one. Like, look, guys, this is how it works. And I get it. Some people say, "Well, Jason, real estate doesn't go up forever." I'm like, "Well, it depends. What's your time horizon? What's your time horizon?" We were in and out of the worst financial crisis in 18 months. And it was half that in Texas. So what's your time horizon? It's so funny. I'm actually doing a real estate seminar for one of my men's groups sometime in January. And a lot of these guys are invested in Bitcoin, and everybody's doing good in Bitcoin. And I'm going to get on that webinar and I'm going to go, guys, you may have made a little chunk of change on Bitcoin, but it's worth nothing.
Yeah, you got to get out.
You got to get out at some point. And then what do you do with the money?
Yeah, well, let's talk about that when we come back from the break. This is Robert and Jason, Mr. Texas Real Estate, Texas Real Estate Radio Network.
Welcome back. We're talking about Bitcoin and all the nonsense with the Bitcoin guys. All right, so you make a lot of money in Bitcoin.
Yep.
Now you're going to pay all these taxes. So now
Bitcoin make the stock market this year.
That's right.
Tons of people, Robinhood, all those millionaires, right? Tesla millionaires.
Yeah.
Now what?
Now what do you do?
What do you do?
You cash out your stocks.
You're going to take a whack. You're going to get crushed in taxes, right?
But the problem is there's an educational shortfall. That's why I'm saying none of these guys are investors. They're traders, but you're not an investor, because all you do is
speculators.
Well, right, and they're like, okay, so I'm going to trade this stock.
Yep.
Now what?
Hey, what do you got? What are you going to do?
Because professional investors go, all right, I'm going to put some in real estate. You and I bought into a company this year.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We also own our other businesses.
Sure.
That's investing.
Started a couple companies. Yeah.
We started a couple companies, right?
1 or 2.
So when you look at these other guys, they're like, yeah, I got rich on trading. Okay, now what?
Right. What do you do?
Even if you got $5-10 million bucks, if you are under the age, in and around the age of 40, you're going to need $10 million to retire. Just not to be poor.
Yep.
I want to make sure everybody understands that. If you're like my age or younger, if you aren't at 10 mil by the time you retire, you're going to be eating dog food. It's going to be awful. Well, that's true. It's going to suck. You're going to be poor. So,
welcome to Walmart and a lot of
with your blue smock.
Yeah, and
here you are at 65 with your blue smock at 10 million.
Supersize it, please.
Right.
Yep.
So you can brag to all your friends, I'm worth $10 million, but why are you wearing a blue smock at Walmart? Well, because inflation destroyed your money.
Yes.
So the idea that you made a couple $1 million on trading some stocks, great. So now the question is, what next?
Yep. What do you do?
Because Bitcoin's not going to have 1,000% return over the last couple of years like it has. So now you find the next thing. Well, here's the problem. What I find with a lot of traders is that they get a little bit of money, they go hard at one asset, and sometimes they win, a lot of times they lose. Sometimes they win big. Now you've got even more money. Are you going to have that same discipline with the more money that you had with the less money?
Right. And if you believe that inflation is going to happen, you're losing every day.
You're losing every day.
Yep.
And I will tell you what, I've run into more business owners, lottery winners, people who've inherited a lot of money, and what ends up happening is they're rich for a minute. And they start investing in all this stuff they don't understand.
Yep.
Because of this confirmation bias, because they were like, I picked Bitcoin at the right time. Well, now I'm going to go into all this other stuff.
Now I'm a genius.
Now you're a genius.
I'm a stock genius.
That's right. You are. With Tesla. You're an absolute stock genius.
I'm up 680%.
Right.
I'm a genius.
So here's the problem. Now what, right?
Right.
I think I totally agree with that.
Hey, Rock, count us down a minute early so we can cover the loss of time. It's the same thing like the stock market, right? It is detached from the actual performance of the company.
I will tell you, I've got a great graphic, and it was in the first picture in Dave's article.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows, what's that goofball's name? The shaved head that's on
Kramer?
Kramer.
Yeah.
So they show a picture of Kramer, and the chyron at the bottom of the screen says, largest S&P rally in history and all that. And then there's a graphic behind him that says, unemployment has never been this high.
Yep.
And you start to realize, you go, wow, these things are so disconnected from reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely disconnected from reality.
Yeah.
So now you're sitting there across the table from me, and this is going to I already know we're getting hate mail because in certain markets, you and I are bookended by trading shows, right?
Yes. Whoops.
Oops. I already know there's a guy in Southern California. God bless him. He seems like a really nice guy, but he always sends me an email after we have a show like this.
Right.
And I'm like, you can't tell me that is your chartoons.
Right.
You can't tell me reading the chart is going to tell you where it's going to go next because you'd be a billionaire by now.
Right.
So the only way I know to consistently generate wealth without pulling your hair out from taxes and watching the market every day is to do it through real estate.
Yep.
It is now don't get me wrong, it's risky, but it's a lot less riskier than some of this other stuff.
And there are lots of ways to parlay that investment, different types of land holdings and things like that. It all works. Yep.
Yeah, it all works.
At the end of the day, there's an asset. Yep.
At the end of the day, I own the asset.
Right. How many people were bullish on GE, right?
GE is still a shocker to me, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, an absolute titan.
All right.
And gone.
Yep.
Absolutely gone overnight. So he did, one of the things I didn't realize, the statistic keeps getting updated. How much of the S&P's returns are Google?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. It's part of the FANG. It's not all the FANGs, but it's Google, Apple, Microsoft, and somebody else. It's like they're 65% of the returns of the S&P.
And Netflix and
Netflix. Yeah.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. So what are you really investing? The other case I've made for years, there's no such thing as diversification if you're in the stock market.
No.
There's no such. That is not diversification. Buy whatever you want. Oh, Jason, I got a basket of Modern Portfolio Theory, MPT, if you guys want to look it up. Modern Portfolio Theory is what you used to do to evaluate a portfolio of assets. MPT died in 2009. When the Fed really started backing up companies, and now they're buying junk, we've known they've been doing that since January.
I like the quote from the guy who runs Stephen Mnuchin's company. Mm-hmm. It said the Fed has been amazingly cooperative.
Oh, yeah, that's great, isn't it?
Of course it has.
Yeah, all my money's in a blind trust since I now work for Fed.
But here's the thing, right? So instead of becoming a Facebook revolutionary,
oh yeah,
go buy 10 houses.
Just go buy 10 houses.
That's all we're telling people. Just go buy 10
houses.
After that, you can do anything wacky you want to do, crazy you want to do, apartments you want to do, hotels. Go. Right, you want oil fields? Great. Go. But I'm telling you right now, just get your 10.
Just get your 10 single-family houses.
It's not crazy enough, right? It's pedestrian.
That's right. I've said this for a while, and we're revamping the website, and I went through this whole thought process over the last couple of days here in the holidays, and I've said this before, but I don't think people believe it. Real estate investing, whether it's apartments, commercial, it doesn't matter. Real estate investing is still a blue-collar sport.
Yep.
Like, this is not I'm going to sit in my ivory tower somewhere and pretend like I'm trading Tesla options. I mean, it's not that. You're not working for Goldman Sachs, dude. You're buying a single-family house. But I'll tell you what, and this is an old saying, I can't remember who said it, but the closer you are to the dirt, the wealthier you are.
Yeah.
Because the dirt is where the productivity is built. Everything else is what they call rent-seeking, meaning you're just making money on the spread. And there's nothing wrong with that, but just recognize where the real money is in the dirt. It's in the dirt.
Yeah, there's always dirt.
It's in the dirt. It's the house. It's the apartment complex.
Totally get it. Right, which is when I was in that meeting in Manhattan, and the guy from Dow Jones came in and said he was going to start rating portfolios of single-family houses. I was like, oh, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
You have no idea what you're doing. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you coming every night. This is the Texas Real Estate Radio Network.
Is that our fourth one?
I think that's our fourth one, right, A-Rock? There is more videos coming. The problem is when we record them on Zoom and then load them up, Patreon does not like the link.
Oh.
So we have got a hidden set of videos that we'll be releasing very shortly here. In fact, A-Rock, I probably need you to work a little bit on that today. So we'll get that. And I have the 7-minute scope walk coming.
Ooh, that's going to be great.
I'll do that. Jason's going to do the end of the year review going over David Collins stuff. We have next Monday coming up, we have the special Q&A for just Patreon members, so make sure you check that out. Last time there was one person, she got a 45-minute coaching call.
That's right. For $25
For $25, she got a $1,500 coaching call.
Yeah, we're easily $2,000 a billable hour.
And she wanted to keep going. I was like, hey, you know what? I was only going to do this for half hour. You're worth 40 minutes, and I'm going to call it a night here.
Post it in the Facebook group.
Yeah, so, no worries. It'll be populated when Taylor gets back in here, and we've converted some of those videos. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it.